This week's video is a little DIY cloth trash can thing that you can keep in your car, and that when you're done with it, it's like a little circular can entirely made out of fabric. It's got a little strap on the end that you can hang it over your gear shifter, or, and I'll talk about this at the end, you could, if you want to be fancy, you could attach a little snap or something, so that way you could hook it around the bars in the head of the chair. Okay, so what you're going to need for this craft is you're going to need 2 pieces of your outer fabric. This is what you want on the outside of the trash can, that are 10 inches by 10 inches, so a nice little 10-inch square for each of those. You need 2 of those. You're going to need 2 squares of your inner fabric, which I'm using wonderful Harry Potter fabric that I have left over from making a sewing machine pad for my sister based on the last video I uploaded, my sewing machine pad. I made another one for her. So also 10 by 10 for each of these, so you need 2 of those. You're going to need 2 pieces of interfacing, also 10 by 10, and you're going to be attaching this to your outside fabric. And if you don't know what interfacing is, it just makes the fabric more sturdy. So whenever you're done, instead of having a floppy little trash can, it's going to actually be stiff, it's going to stay open, it's going to be pretty cool. So you're going to need 2 pieces of that. And then you're also going to need fabric that matches your outside fabric, a strip of that for the strap, and it needs to be 3 inches by 15 inches long. And we're going to put that on later. Okay, so what we're doing now, me with the iron, is we're fusing the interfacing to the fabric. So you want to start off, make sure you're putting it on the wrong side of your fabric, the inside of your fabric, not the pattern side. When laying the interfacing down, you want to find the side that's got the glue, which if you look closely, it has a bunch of little dots on it, or the side that's not really soft and smooth to the touch, okay? You're going to lay that down, which, by the way, this is the first time I've ever, there's the door, fused interfacing, so we'll see how this goes. Hopefully I don't mess this up. Make sure it's nice and lined up. I'm trying to get it all lined up so I don't have to pin it, because that'll take me forever. And then what you're gonna need is you need a damp cloth. So I just took, this is just a piece of a sheet that I had cut up that I was using for making patterns and stuff. You want it damp, which I'm gonna double check my instructions, because like I said, I've never done this before. 10 seconds. Okay. Yeah, so you want to have this, I just rinsed this with water, and then I wrung all the water out, because you just want this to be damp. You don't want it to be soaking wet. I'm going to fold it over. And then be careful you don't move your interfacing when you lay it down. I'm just going to do that. And then it says, I have my iron on the wool steam setting, so it's not super hot. I've seen on YouTube videos that you can do it for whatever fabric you're doing. So like this is cotton. I could do it all the way up to cotton, but that's hotter, so I'm gonna not risk it yet unless I have to. And so I have to just set it down for 10 full seconds. So we're gonna try, I'm gonna just do it in the corner first. And now that you have your outer fabric fused with your fusible interfacing, which turned out pretty well, what you're going to do is you're going to lay them right sides together. So you want the wrong sides on the outside. And what you're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pin this, and we're going to sew around 3 corners, or maybe if I can do it. You should have your outer pieces sewn together at a 1/2 inch seam allowance that I was having difficulty trying to say. And so that when you should be able to, if I can open it up, you got a nice little pouch. We'll come back to that later. So now what you're going to do is you're going to want to take your lining fabric and line it up, put them right sides together. And if you have a pattern fabric like I did with text on it, you want to line it up so that way they're going the same way. And then we're going to pin this, I pin it just because I can't get stuff to stay together to save my life. And what we're going to do is we're going to sew it almost the exact same way as the outside lining fabric. We're going to sew down the 2 sides But when we get to this back side, we're not going to sew all the way across. We're going to sew in, leaving about a 3 to 4 inch gap in the middle, because we're going to need that for when we're all sewn together and all done to pull everything out, turn it right side out. You should have your outer fabrics sewn all the way around on 3 sides, 1/2 inch seam allowance, and then your inner fabric, I'm trying to figure out which side because I did it with white thread, sewn down 2 sides and then in part of the way with about a 3 to 4 inch gap in the middle. So now what we're going to want to do is we need to make it so that it sits opening like this, and so we're going to need to box the corners for doing that. So what you need to do to box the corners is you're going to match up your side seam with your bottom seam, which I've also never done this before, so we're going to see how this goes, and try to flatten it almost in the corner. So, and you can use the iron for this. If it's easier for you, I would do that, but I unplugged it, so kind of like that. And you want to try to make sure that those seams are definitely lined up as best as possible. And then put a pin in it somewhere. And then what you're going to want to do after you do both of those is sew a line about 2 inches in. Now, once you're going to sew and everything, but once you do that, now it should sit up like that. What you're going to want to do is you want to take your outer bag. Now we want to turn this from right side out. Push out the... And now you have your outside. It looks like that. But before we add the lining or do anything else, what we need to do is we need to make the strap that's going to attach on one of these sides that we're going to be able to use to hang it off the gear shifter in your car. You're going to take your strip of fabric, which should be 3 by 15 inches. And so the first thing you're going to do, which is easiest for me, is you just fold it in half, meet the raw edges together like that. And then iron it all the way down so you get a nice crease right here in the middle. And then you open it back up and you fold the outer edges toward the center, towards the crease, like that. Iron it again, and then you fold it over one more time, like so. If I can get it to fold again. Might need to iron it back down now that I opened it. Won't hurt. And so now you have your nice little folded strap that we're going to use. And so we're going to go to the machine and we're going to sew down this side to close it up. And then also on this side, so I'd probably say about 1/8 of an inch from the ends. You should have your little outer layer box, and you should have your nice strap that we just sewed 1/8 of an inch from the edge on both sides, so that way it's nice and even, nice and pretty. We need to attach this onto this before we do the lining and start sewing the lining. I have it pinned. Hopefully we can see that. Nice little strap right there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our lining bag, and so we're going to keep it still wrong side out. And we're going to tuck this inside of it, including the strap. You don't want the strap hanging out. I would start by pinning the side seams so that way they're even. And then also, if I were you see how we have the little flaps from each side? I would pin it down so that way one going each way, so that way it doesn't get too bulky and doesn't look weird. So let's pin this. When we're done pinning it, we're going to go and sew all the way around this edge. Now you should have it all pinned, and like I said, we're going to sew all the way around here at 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. And you also need to make sure when you're going over the straps, maybe go back and forth a couple times just so they're really secured on there. So now you should have stitched all the way around the top of your bag for 1/4 inch. And now what you're going to do is you're going to go to the bottom where you have this little hole open, and you're going to pull everything out. Oh, there's a safety pin. or straight pin still there. Pull everything out through that bottom. So I would go a little slowly, a little gently. You don't want to rip any stitches. That would be bad after all your hard work. And then you probably want to tuck this in here. And so now you could be done if you want to. Now you have your lining of your bag. You have your little strap on here. Looks pretty great. But if you want it to look really, really professional and really nice, what you can do is you can fold up the lining to the outer side and just go across a little stitch on the outside. I'd probably about 1/8 of an inch, which I'm probably gonna do. And then you will have to go back and sew up that little hole in the middle. So if you don't care about it looking nice, you can just fold it and then do a machine stitch on your sewing machine. You can hand sew it. I'm just gonna sew it on the machine because I'm using white thread. Nobody's gonna see it. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish this up and then show you the finished product when we're done. So now that we have stitched this lining down about a quarter, not a quarter of an inch, I'm sorry, 1/8 of an inch from the top, just so it lays flat, it's not poking out of the top. We got our strap sewn on, which, yep, strap sewn on. You can flip it either way. You got your lining. Like I said, that little hole that you had to close up, you could make it look nice and pretty. I personally just machine stitched it. It's fast, it's easy. And I also just realized I didn't say this ever. Anytime you're stitching, make sure you're back stitching when you start. So back stitch and then go and then finish and then back stitch. So that way it doesn't come unraveled and all your hard work goes to waste. So you tuck that back in. Just hook it on to your gear shifter. You can always put a little bag in here if you're worried about anything leaking. It'll be fine. So yeah, I hope this inspires you to go out and make your own little car trash can. I don't know how much people are driving with the Rona going on right now, but as soon as I can start driving more and go back to work and all that, this will be going in my car. So if you have any suggestions about what I should make next for next week's video, please drop those suggestions in the comments, and make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel, and stay tuned next week for another sewing project.